Okay, hello everybody. My name is Mike McCall, and I'll start off by talking about where we are as it relates to the Travis County lawsuit. As Rick mentioned, the issue about what constitutes an application for a permit for a landfill has never, with the issue between the bifurcated permit application where they filed two parts and then they later had to file the other two parts to get the four parts to get a complete application. The question about whether or not filing two parts grandfathers them in their permit application, that's the thing that has never been decided in a court of law. So, and it's so important in this case because when they filed their application, they're bifurcated two parts of the application in July, and the county approved the ordinance, 2011-001 ordinance on August the 26th, 2011, and then the landfill applicants filed the entire permit application as of January of 2012. It's basically the question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Which came first, the ordinance or the actual permit application? And that's what basically the lawsuit in Travis County is about. We filed that lawsuit in January of 2013. It is still pending. The Attorney General of the state of Texas is not pushing it at this point. And the reason is because there's other lawsuits that were filed after that, which Bill's going to address, related to the Hempstead lawsuit against Waller County and the status of that. And well, you want to address that?
Well, just a few other items on that, the TCEQ. They do have responses prepared to your comments. Unfortunately, those responses, I understand, are about the thickness of a City of Houston Yellow Pages. And they're having difficulty figuring out how to send it out to about 5,000 people who made comments. So they've got a little problem there. But we do have the lawsuit still pending with the Travis County Court over both the transfer station and the landfill. As Mike said, there's a couple of issues in there that we've discussed before. But let's get back to the Hempstead lawsuit that's been filed by the City of Hempstead and CALH against both Waller County and Green Group Holdings. That was about the imposition of the second ordinance over the City of Hempstead's ETJ. Just as Rick told you about it, they knew it. They walked right into the lawsuit knowing that it was going to occur. That's moved forward. We've had the first hearing with Judge Terry Flanagan in our Waller County Courthouse. At that first hearing, that we asked for a motion to compel the Judge Beckendorf, to testify concerning the executive session meeting content that was not legal related. Our issue there is the host agreement's a contract between the citizens of Waller County, and Green Group Holdings, and is not privileged in that sense. We also asked them to require them to turn over the minutes of that meeting for our review. During the course of those hearings, all the process was described to the judge, what took place, and through both AB's, Allison Bass's responses, and Hans Scarborough, our attorney's questions and comments, the judge started to ask, well, if you didn't talk about these issues in open court, and if you didn't talk about these issues in executive session, when were you guys talking about these issues? I will say this for Allison Bass's folks, they talked around the issues without answering them very well.
You know, just to jump in up there for a second, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Is that we're led to believe that Stan Kitzman voted for the ordinance or the host agreement without having discussed it with anybody, ever. And included in that host agreement are many, many provisions that are unique to Waller County, one of them being a library agreement. And in the library agreement, that was discussed by Frank McCall with other members of Commissioners Court when they came back from their negotiations. But when did Mr. Kitzman learn about the negotiations and whether or not those negotiations were adequate? Was he acceptable with those? There is no record of when they discussed that. And wouldn't you, if you were being asked to sign a contract with a $3 billion revenue stream on a landfill, wouldn't you want to have discussed with the other participants negotiating that agreement what the terms were? How did they arrive at the amount? I mean, in that agreement is $75,000 to come to the county on the library over a period of 10 years, when this landfill is going to be here for 49 years. Wouldn't you want to ask your other commissioners, how did you arrive at that? Was that, how hard did you negotiate for $75,000 over 10 years? There's something here that doesn't make sense to me or anybody else. And Judge Linigan hit the nail right on the head. It was like that. If you could have been there, it was like there was this 800-pound gorilla sitting in the room and everybody was wondering, when is he going to ask the question? And when he asked the question, the attorneys for Waller County, it was like he was a chicken on a hot plate trying to figure out how to answer this judge without seeming just like he didn't know what he was talking about. So it was a very interesting hearing.
But as an outcome from that meeting, the judge did make a decision. He told the county that they are to deliver the minutes of those executive sessions to him, and they granted CALH and our attorneys the right to depose Judge Beckendorf for depositions. We'd asked for 2 hours. The judge didn't put a limit. Maybe we'll use what we can get. So that's the first thing that's happened. Coming up, I should say this, Hempstead is asking for a motion to simply vanquish the lawsuit. Summary judgment on it. Get rid of it. Of course, the Waller County's gone back, and along with Green Group Holdings, they're asking for similar motions. Those will be under consideration. We thought we had a date scheduled, and as of today, it's being moved out most likely to April 21st or somewhere thereabouts. So, as we all have said from the very first, the legal process is slow. We've got to persevere and stay on board. That's what we're doing. The first signs of the lawsuit came out good, and the judge recognized what's going on real quickly. We'll see what happens with that. The actual lawsuit, which is scheduled to take probably 4 days, that's most likely going to get moved out to June. Again, no dates have been set. You sit there, and we've gone through this for 2.5 years now. And it's really difficult to stand by and listen to the people that were supposed to have represented us. All over this 2 years, since we first found out, we said, what's going on? What we got was lies, misrepresentations. We all make mistakes in our lives, do things wrong. I think all of our parents have always told us, if you make a mistake, acknowledge it and do what you can to correct it. Our judges and commissioners, they have the same opportunity. They say they didn't vote for the landfill, but going back to Rick's timeline that he pointed out, they knew about this landfill at least 6 months before the citizens in the north side of the county knew about it. If you're going to, let's take for example, you're going to buy your car. You've got a decision to make. You want to buy something that you can afford. You want to know what model suits you, what style of car, reliability, and all these other issues. Well, when these guys first started talking to Green Group Holdings, they had decisions to be made. Those decisions were, do we want to continue these conversations with Green Group Holdings and get into bed with them? Or Do we want to also look at and see what the options are for us to control where it gets located in the county, whether it's here? Set some parameters for these negotiations. Apparently, the judge and commissioners decided that was not necessary. They made a choice. We found out through the Texas Health and Safety Code that they could have designated locations within the county where landfills are not prohibited. They had the choice to pick sites that minimize the adverse impact on the environment, our water, the citizens, the economy of this county. They chose just to disregard those issues. It was a choice they made. Yes, they say they didn't vote for a landfill, but what would you say about their actions back in January, between January and in June of 2011? They'd already made up their minds. If you don't pursue your other options, the choice has been made. We've asked some of them, well, why didn't you know about the Texas Health and Safety Code? Just like we did. We knew about it 2 days afterwards. Well, we just didn't know. We didn't know there was such a thing. Well, that's incompetence. If you've got a job, you do your research, you get the answers before you make your decisions. They failed to do so, point blank. That's the answer. And we've stayed on this because we know it's not the right location for the environment, the people affected, the economy of this county, and for many other reasons. We're simply doing this because it's the right thing to do, and we really appreciate your help throughout this 2.5 years process. We're not going away. They said it was a done deal 2.5 years ago. Well, doesn't look like they were quite right on that either. And that's all I've got to say about that.